Hello and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. There's all kinds of family. We chose this one. This episode 401, the Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift lap. Tokyo Drift also. We'll get to that in a second. Lap 15. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too, and this episode is brought to you by the Japan Rail Pass. The Japan Rail Pass is a ticket offered jointly by the 6JR Group companies. Go to the Japan Rail Pass for all of your train coverage in Japan.
Well, shout out to Japan Rail Pass. Before we get to our guest, Joe, my co-host on the other podcast, How to Win the Lottery, jeez, I can't talk today.
Yeah.
Said the world would be a better place if we all spent a little bit more time with art. Like, have you ever seen the old Japanese train tickets that are like beautiful?
Yeah.
It's like so nice. And like, he's like, the world would be a better place if we cared more about art, which is also like a nice lead into our guest, which I didn't mean to do intentionally, but also just, pretty good at this thing. But like those old, like if you look up like the 50s Japanese tickets, they're just like we just have, a tap to pay or whatever. But they're just like, no, it was a thing to have. Anyway, with us tonight, talking about Tokyo Drift, talking about art, we have one of the founders and owners of Studiohouse Designs, Cody Brown. Hello, Cody.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Welcome to the
brother.
show.
Thank you so much.
So last year, when you put out an amazing collection that I'm wearing, that Joe has bought, that you're wearing, of shirts basically from the first 3 movies, car air freshener that I got that we all have, I messaged you, because I've been buying Studiohouse for years now, and I messaged you, I was like, hey, do you want to talk about these movies? And you're like, yeah, absolutely. So here we are, because the other one, it was Too Fast we did right around Black Friday, which we figured you were kind of maybe a little bit busy around Black Friday.
We were slammed, yeah, definitely. Awful time for us.
You're here now talking about Tokyo Drift. So before we go any further, what is your history with the franchise? Where did you first, what was the first one you saw? Was it in theaters? Give us your history, you and the Fast and Furious franchise.
Starting out really young, I saw the first one in theaters. I was into cars. I had just gotten an Acura Integra. I was like, yeah, exactly. So I was in high school. I'm super stoked on cars. And finally, we get the coolest car movie ever to drop, The Fast and the Furious. I went with my grandfather, who was just like, I don't understand this at all, I watched it. I drove home, and when you watch a Fast and the Furious movie in the theaters, and then you get in your car to go home, there's no other way to drive except for excessively fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's it just enters the adrenaline just enters your bloodstream, and you just slam on the gas. But then after that, I was hooked. Too Fast, Too Furious came out literally in the peak of my high school time. That's by far the most impressionable movie for me is Too Fast, Too Furious. But then Tokyo Drift came out, and once that hit me, it taught me so much about cars that I did not know, and that was probably the revelation that I needed to push me into cars in the way that I really, really love them now, which, as you can see behind me, I have wheels and stuff,
Yep,
Yes.
Very cool.
So I've been into drift, JDM cars and stuff like that, all alongside making art my whole life.
That's so cool. I will take a quick detour. You talked about bringing your grandfather to see Fast and Furious. I don't know why any of us thought this was a good idea, but in the 90s, I brought my grandparents, I think, to see, I want to say an animated Final Fantasy movie or something.
Oh, I have one of these stories too. I could do mine next.
I don't remember a single thing about the movie because the entire time I'm like, I cannot imagine how bored they are. Maybe I said a 10-year-old or whatever. just because I think that I was staying with them for a week or something, and they're just like, let's go see a movie. You can get the pick. I'm just like, let's see this, because it was maybe the only movie that wasn't rated R or whatever it was. And then the entire time I'm just like, I am so sorry.
I think grandparents are just so stoked to be with their grandkids that they're like, I'll watch any shit you put in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's the Fast and the Furious, it's anime, whatever. Hey, it's not a Western, but I'll still watch it,
I have a very memorable moment that I took my grandfather to go see Spawn in '97.
Oh.
Yeah, and that was I only it's not the only movie we went to go see, but I definitely remember because we walked out and he was like, we'll never do that again. And I was like, okay, fair enough.
So now, Cody, very important question. Again, there's no wrong answers here, but can you please rank the Fast and Furious movies in order of favorite to least favorite?
Okay, so I got my list. Written here. But here's a very shameful admittance here.
Okay.
I think I've only really seen maybe 5 or 6 of them.
That's okay.
I don't
That's
think
fine.
I've seen all of them. But so since I haven't seen all of them, I can definitely give you my top 5.
Cool.
So
Okay.
my top 5 are: number 1 is Too Fast, Too Furious. Obviously, Suki, ludicrous. Like, the vibe of that whole movie is just amazing. And like I said, that was like pinnacle of my high school experience. Number 2 is Tokyo Drift. Like I said, formative learning movie here for me. Like, I learned so much about drift and like why these JDM cars are so cool. Then number 3 is The Fast and the Furious, number 1. That obviously got me into everything. Then number 4 is Fast 5. And then so for Fast and Furious, in number 5 and my number 4 place of Fast 5, both of those I had to kind of Google them to remember like what they were about, but I definitely remembered watching them because I remembered like the bank vaults and dragging them down the highway and shit like that. The massive flow of cars coming out of the one warehouse and everything. Like, there were just some really cool scenes in those movies that I really did love.
Very cool. I will say we now have 101 rankings.
Oh, 101. Nice
of
number.
the movies, and I think you are only the 5th person to have Too Fast as your favorite.
Really? That's insane.
It gets a lot of hate. It's a definitely a polarizing one for us. Like that and Tokyo Drift.
And it kind of makes a lot of sense because that movie it's I think less about like how cool the cars are, but how stylish the cars are. And like, that's something that really speaks to me and like my experience with cars, going to like car shows like Nopi in the early 2000s. I think those were like absolutely those were the types of cars that I was looking at.
You're also in really good company because the other people who have 2 as their top are fan favorite Mark Hoffmeyer, 2 longtime patrons, and then somebody I don't know, somebody who might have very, very early probably just wrote in rankings. But yeah, you're in very good company in terms of Too Fast. So now,
I'm proud.
Company.
I'm very proud to be.
Before we pivot to talk about Tokyo Drift specifically, there are some questions about the franchise that aren't really about the franchise. They're little things we have picked up on over the 400 episodes we've done the show that don't have right or wrong answers. We don't know what they mean, and we're just looking for any kind of answer here, good or bad. Are you ready to answer some very specific, open-ended questions?
Oh God. Yes.
Okay. So in the first movie, when they are doing the dishes after the barbecue, Brian and Mia are in there doing dishes. Vince comes in, drunkenly harasses Brian.
Yes.
And Mia says to Vince, "Hey, Vince, what's the name of that restaurant you want to take me to? It's the Cuban place. It's got the wood tables, the red candles, the picadillo, the food all over the place." And Vince says, "Cha-cha-cha." And she says, "That's right, Brian, you can bring me there." So now one of the things she describes it as having is food all over the place. We don't know what this means. So if we say to you, Cody, this was such a blast, we had such a great time, next time you're on the East Coast, come out, we're going to go to, we're going to bring you out to New York, we're going to go to dinner. There's this great restaurant. It's got these wood tables, these red candles. It's got food all over the place.
Yep.
What do you think that means? Like, what do you picture food all over the place?
All right, so I'm going to take you back to my college days right now.
Perfect.
Please.
All right, so in college, I used to go to this place called Los Aztecas, and it was banging. They had the best burritos that you could possibly find in Indiana, Pennsylvania. Okay.
Oh, that's where you were? Okay.
Yes.
Where'd you go? IUP?
I went to IUP, yes.
There you
Yes.
go.
Big
Okay.
shout out
I'm a
IUP.
Pennsylvania boy. I'm
Okay.
a Pittsburgh native. So.
Okay, yeah. So I used to hang out all over Pittsburgh. In Indiana, Pennsylvania, it's literally like, it's where culture goes to die. And, and so they have this one like authentic Mexican place called Los Aztecas, right? And no lie, I think about this place because it's like they had like big wooden dividers in between the booths and everything, but all over the walls they had burritos painted, like burritos and tacos, and like, but like very crudely, very poorly. They obviously got the art kids from the college, you know, to come down and be like, paint what you think an authentic burrito looks like, and they just were like, I guess it looks like this, and it was absolutely awful. But they were these massive like enchiladas in the middle of like just Mexican landscapes. So it was like a blend of like all these different weird things in these murals. I don't know.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, so food all over the place. I think, you know, we're in Indiana, Pennsylvania, and there are burrito murals on the wall.
Like, I know that you credited the Fast and Furious with like art, but it sounds like maybe your career in art came from Los Aztecas. This is what I want to do.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Because look, those people might not have gotten paid, but they got paid in burritos or something. Whoever paid, you know what I mean? So like, if they can do this,
that business was definitely not doing well enough to like pay good money for those murals. So I'm just going to make the assumption it was for free food.
Probably.
Yeah.
So now in Furious 7, which it's okay that if you haven't seen it or maybe you saw it or forgot about it, but there's two things in that movie that we don't really, well, there's one thing we don't know and then one thing that's just sort of a fun thing to get to know you. There's a scene where they're around the table and Roman is talking about how he saved the family over and over again. He's done all this stuff. He's, you know, taken down a plane. He's done this, blah, 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 blah.
Typical Roman.
And then Brian says, the only thing I've seen you take down is no knees to niece at prom. And Roman very defensively says, really, Brian, you're going to do that right now? We don't know what no knees Denise means. It could be good. It's probably not. It could be bad. Who knows? But if you hear a person described as having no knees Joe, no knees Cody, whoever, what does no knees mean to you? We've heard everything, so don't feel like you have to censor yourself. What does no knees to
We've heard everything.
Yeah. I go to like a sexual reference with that one.
Yeah.
So like obviously like blowjobs or something like that. But I also kind of go to the King of the Hill war veteran grandfather. Didn't he like have his knees blown off?
His shins blown off.
His shins blown off. Okay. So this sounds like that might be a common answer.
She's a veteran.
Yeah.
I only know that because we had one other person who referenced King of the Hill, and then I watched all of King of the Hill in the last 2 years. So like it's fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
Cotton Hill, yes. So that's not a common answer. The blowjob thing, that's like where people mostly go. But King of the Hill, you're in special company, which is good.
That's good, yeah.
The other question is that later in that same movie, they need Roman to distract a room full of people so that Dom and Brian can steal a part from a car. And so they have him go up and he sings this birthday song. He just like does this whole awkward thing and like sings happy birthday really over the top in a Roman way to this girl. So if we're saying to you, Cody, Joe and I need to go in this other room. We need to steal something from a car. We need you to distract this room of people any way you can. We need you to sing a song a cappella, either so good that people are like, oh my God, or so bad they can't take their eyes off of it. What song are you singing to distract a room full of strangers?
All right, I'm gonna go really quick. Throw some D's on that.
Okay.
But the remix version with Andre 3000, because that's probably one of his best verses. And not gonna lie, that was my hype up song right before we jumped into this. Where like
perfect.
That's my on repeat on Spotify. That's like my number one right there. If not that, probably like Still Tippin' Mike Jones.
Oh,
yeah.
Some Mike Jones too.
Yeah.
Joey has, just to let you know, Joey has put together the Spotify list of all of the answers we've gotten, and it is a wild ride.
That's phenomenal.
This question.
That's phenomenal.
So you would be joining the Spotify list of all of everybody's karaoke.
Yeah, it's called 2F2F Songs to Pull a Job To, and there's close to 50 songs. I got to update with the last couple of ones we've gotten, but there's about 50 on there, or maybe more now. But
and I mean, you can imagine the reach we've gotten.
That's
on
phenomenal.
This question.
That's insane. That's really cool.
And then, do you have a favorite character? It doesn't have to be in somebody who's Tokyo Drift, but a favorite. I mean, there's also somebody on your shirt, and it might be her. But is there a favorite character in these movies?
To be honest, it's got to be Suki. I think out of all of them,
hell yeah,
yeah. Roman is pretty up there for me just because he's super goofy. But I think Suki, just the combination of like badass, feminine. Just an awesome like role model for like younger female anybody to just get into cars. The when I was young, I was very attracted to her. Obviously,
she's super hot. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And then on top of that, the pink car, the pink S2000, was just such a badass look for her. I never saw like I always see men in cars, and I think that that's really cool. So I think that we have a lot of like masculine takes on what these cars are supposed to look like. Obviously, the whole first movie. But then you finally get like even in the first movie we have Letty who's got a cool car, but I think her car's black.
Red, she's got it, but it
Yes.
definitely Letty doesn't exude femininity either.
Agreed.
In her own
Agreed.
right. So
Or Dom's
yes, it's not a
sister,
pink
too.
car. She's not gonna
Yeah.
have a pink car.
Yeah, but I think like Suki really just like embodies like that femininity, that badassery, but then also she's a creative. She like draws liveries, and like it's the same aspect of seeing art within cars, and I think that that's something that's really important to me. I got into all of this actually through Jesse. Jesse's a big favorite character of mine. I literally have a Mark III Jetta in my garage right now.
Damn.
Because I absolutely love that character, and I have ADHD. I struggle a lot with relating to other people, having conversations. So like at an early age, seeing Jesse and seeing how he could translate his ADHD into a superpower and essentially utilize it for good in some sort of way, I thought to myself, holy shit, I could do that too. And I think Suki is just pushing that a little bit further.
That's super cool. We've been banging the drum to bring Suki back to the franchise for a long time.
I'm with it.
Jesse, we can't bring him back because he's actually dead in the
He's
franchise.
dead.
Actually dead in the franchise. But we're hoping that, maybe we get a victory lap kind of end game situation happening at the very last
It'd
one,
be
and
cool
we get Suki back.
Yeah, it'd be cool to get a prequel. Maybe like a backstory and have like a little bit of that like Jesse, Vince, Letty, Dom kind of story going on.
Just as a quick aside, we are up to 61 songs on the playlist on Spotify in case you want to have the worst mix of all time.
I'm absolutely playing
songs
that.
To pull a job to. Okay.
I'm absolutely playing that while I work.
So now, Cody, let's kick off about Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. Favorite moments, least favorite moments. Why is this one your second favorite of the 5 that you've seen? What about this? I know you've mentioned some things already, but what about this stands out above the rest? What do you love specifically about Tokyo Drift?
The first and the second really embodied the American culture of cars, where I think that this one actually shows us what the JDM car culture is like, and having that insight into like, okay, well, I know how people in the US modify cars. I know like what a Supra with a Bomex body kit looks like, but like, let's bring it into Japan. Like, let's see what these cars look like in their homeland and how, people kind of respect them there.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I think that this is totally a departure from like movies, like just American car action movies. And we start to see what I think is an anime feel to the Fast and the Furious franchise. I think I have in my notes like very Initial D-esque scenes where like you get that feeling of a lot of ambiance, a lot of airy wispiness, with a lot of like backstory happening, specifically when Neela is talking about, where she comes from and when they're going down the mountain.
All the mountain scenes too, very Initial D, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. All the race scenes. And like, that is so cool to me because like growing up into Japanese cars, I really enjoyed Fast and the Furious, but I was watching Initial D. I was watching option tapes and stuff like that, and trying to understand drift more so than just seeing these cars go in a straight line.
It's something that I feel, so I'm not a car guy at all. Like, I don't even having done this show for close to 8 years now, I don't know anything about cars, but it is like my only ever conception of drifting or anything like comes from this movie. Like, I can't imagine like it just feels so important or powerful or something that like this movie could have such an influence on like American culture in a way, even though the
Yes.
American going to Japan, now it's Japan coming to America because of the movie. Like, it's something that, again, people like to, dunk on the franchise or whatever, but like this did open doors in a real severe way.
And inspired a ton of kids, apparently. Like, look at us, right? A whole bunch of us were like Tokyo Drift. Like, for me, I watched Tokyo Drift and then went, immediately.
Tell the full story.
I got drunk watching Tokyo Drift, and I applied to school in Tokyo, and I spent a summer there. Because I was watching Tokyo Drift, I was like, that looks fucking sick. I woke up, and they were like, okay, send in your transcripts. I was like, cool. And then I did. And it was a great, 2 months that I spent there, life-changing. And it was just because I was watching this movie, and I was like, I want to go see this shit. And I did.
That's so cool. That's so cool. What an experience, too.
Yeah, it was awesome. It's a great place. I mean, it's awesome.
So then are you into cars?
Yeah, I mean, yes. I grew up, my parents have a rental car place. I grew up across the street from a Porsche dealership.
That's
so,
cool.
I experienced a lot of car stuff as a kid. I do love cars a lot.
That's
I'm not super into, modified car. There are my favorite, but I spent a lot of time around a lot of, weird, expensive cars. There's a personal car collection that I've seen a ton of. So, I've been in Enzos and Porsche Carrera GTs and saw Le Mans cars, high end stuff. Yeah, lots of Ferraris and stuff like that, just because the nature of the dealership. So I was around a lot of the more exotic stuff. But yes, I always loved cars. So.
That's super cool.
So one question we've been asking, we only started halfway through the lap because we forgot to do it earlier in the lap. We didn't actually think about it, but this is our oops, we should have covered it already lap. There's actually two questions here related. One to the
I
movie,
really
want
to hear Cody's answer. Yeah.
This lap, in between the Fast and Furious movies, we watch other movies that are sort of related to, starring actors or thematically or whatever, that are tied to the Fast and Furious, so they're not watching these every week. And this lap is, oops, we should have covered that, movies that we should have, for whatever reason, covered in the 400 episodes already, but just didn't get around to. So now we're filling in the gaps here. So the first question, not about the movie, is what movie do you think feels like Fast and Furious, or if there's a car movie, there's something that we might have already covered it. It's not a problem if we have, but is there a movie out there that you if you guys have talked about this movie?
This is not a Fast and the Furious movie, but you should have talked about this.
If we're talking about specifically Tokyo Drift, the Initial D live action movie is really, really cool.
Okay.
And that's very fun. It really follows the anime pretty closely. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the anime of Initial D.
I've watched the anime, a lot of the anime, but never the live action stuff.
We haven't covered any of it for the show. I know that I think the live action's been on our list to get to, and I think we were going to do maybe, because it's a TV, it's a show, right? The animated one.
Yes.
We were going to maybe do a couple episodes. We haven't done that either yet. But you said the live action, you think holds
the live
up,
action movie is pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And then I'm sure you've heard this 1,000 times, is Super Fast.
We did Super Fast, right?
Did you do it?
Yeah, we did Super Fast.
Okay, yeah. The other day I was watching Tokyo Drift to just kind of get refreshed with it before I watched it for note taking. The movie ended. I ended up doing something else, and I came back in, and I hear burnouts and stuff, and I was like, "Oh, is there another cool movie on?" So I sit down and I get into it, not realizing that this is supposed to be a parody movie. And I got a good almost 15-20 minutes into it, and then I was like, "Oh wait, this is making fun of those movies." It was impressive. It was really, so I ended up watching the whole thing.
There's another movie that we just did this lap. So that one is very much making fun of, but there's also as I'm sure you're aware, The Asylum, who does the sort of mockbusters where they're not making a Fast and Furious movie, but they're basically trying to make a Fast and Furious movie without making fun of it, but for $1 million, and then basically confuse, again, going back to grandmas in CVS or whatever, be like, "Oh, I got you that film." So there's a movie called 200 Miles Per Hour. I don't want to recommend watching, but in terms of a thing that we were this is going to suck, it's just for the first third, you're this is actually not bad. And then it they run out of money or whatever. They run out of ideas and just okay. But in terms of that parody or mock or whatever, it's 200 miles per hour is not bad. So you could probably accidentally fall into watching that for a while. Be like, is this a Fast and Furious? They don't.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm into that. Yeah. And honestly, the worse the movie is, the more I'm gonna like it. And the more low budget that movie is, the more I'm gonna enjoy it.
There is
check out 200 miles an hour then.
The horror people and the horror community just no, I have friends who this is the worst movie I've ever seen. I'm like, you don't know what a bad movie is until like you start watching horror movies. Like your bar for like what's bad like lowers so much. Like, no, like that's in focus. Like that's a pretty good movie. Like, you know, they actually had somebody with a microphone in the right place. You could hear what's, you know, whatever.
100%. I totally agree.
So the other oops question, but related specific to this movie, and if you need time to think about it, because it's not something I prepped you with, but is there a moment in this movie that not like a goof in the script or something like that, but that a character does something or makes a mistake that is like the biggest oops moment of the movie? I have one that we've been debating for hundreds of episodes.
Oh.
My oops moment is inviting your son to live with you in Japan and then still having a hooker at your house when he shows up and then forgetting to get your son at the airport. Like, that's a pretty big oops moment.
Yeah, no, I'm
Big
definitely
oops.
with that. That's huge oops.
That's a huge oops.
And like, how disgusting is that to like have that situation happen and like have to like navigate that as a parent and be like, oh, this is not somebody I'm seeing, but also we're not going to talk about this at all.
Well, one thing that I noticed this time that I can't believe we've never talked about, I don't think we've ever talked about, but I saw him this time quickly crumple up the bed sheets, and I'm just like, oh, that's so gross.
Yeah.
Like, to just like, not only like did I have to like usher the hook, like put her coat on as like the woman of the night leaves the room, but to then go inside and be like, well, Sean, we just gotta like, you know, like
Let me change these sheets real quick, bud.
Oh, that like
I guess repeat the question for me one more time.
Biggest oops moment, something a character does or goofs or error. There's no real right or wrong answer here. Joe, do you have a thoughts?
Okay. I think I got this one actually.
Okay.
So something that I have written down is the father says to Sean, he says, no cars. Absolutely no cars.
Yo.
And literally the next day, his son is in a car park around all these cars. And like his dad then eventually says like, well, you know, at least you're not making my mistakes. But like, at the same time, he's like sitting here telling him like, yo, no cars. And you're telling this kid that literally just built this insane Monte Carlo and demolished it to never touch cars ever again.
Here in the land of milk and honey, right?
Literally that. And it's like, you're going to tell me that as a parent, you're not smart enough to think this kid is not, he's just going to leave cars alone. Like, no, like, you know what? You're going to want to get into cars, especially here, because cars are really cool here. And we're in Tokyo, where it's basically like heaven for anybody who likes cars. So like, maybe we'll get you a small car. You can tinker with it, like a K car, you know, 660 cc's. It can go like 50 at best, you know, and we'll work into it slowly. Like, that's smart parenting, not.
Or he's building a fucking car. Just show him your car in the garage and be like, do you want to work on this with me?
And we can bond over it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, and to just be like, no cars, that's bad parenting.
I'm debating between Sean thinking he can learn how to drift in 3 seconds before he races DK and just destroying the Mona Lisa, or him giving the iPod to what's his name, and then getting in trouble because he like saves his friend but gets beat up, but then ruins his business and his friend is mad at him. Yeah, I think giving the iPod back is like, what are you doing, bud? Just like leave it alone. But he saved his friend, so
I mean, there was
that's
another thing that's not in the movie, but like comes to roost in this movie is Han stealing from the Yakuza is a pretty big oops moment.
Yeah.
Like skimming off the top. It's like maybe don't do that, but you know.
I did have in my notes like, how are we supposed to side with the guy that was skimming off the top from Yakuza?
Because
like,
he's so cool, man.
He's so cool.
What are DK and Han actually selling in this film?
I don't know. I have no idea. Like, to get the money.
They say like the shipment. They say like the shipment.
Yeah.
Like Uncle Kamada knows about it. What is it?
It's probably drugs, right? It's got to be drugs.
I would assume drugs.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it drugs? Is it guns? Is it car parts? Is it
DVD
what is
players?
it? DVD players.
Yeah. That's a good question.
I just thought about it watching it this time because he was like, "Where are you worried about the shipment?" But like, they never say what it is.
We never talk about that. Yeah.
No. I don't think it's drugs. Why would Han be Okay, so now we go back, right? We know that Han, at this point, because we do the time jump, Han has money. He's hanging out with a guy that hangs out with high school girls.
Right.
a high schooler skimming off the top of the Yakuza and selling drugs.
Wait, is Han not cool?
But I'm saying, like, is this his retirement plan? Like, what was he doing?
They also have multiple nightclubs with liquor licenses.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if Japan does liquor licenses, but like these are big businesses, and with the garage attached, that scene is phenomenal because it really shows you the assets that they're holding. Where you literally walk through one club, you walk through a hallway to another club, and then you walk into their massive garage with like lifts,
sleep pods.
Like, oh, get him a bunk. He's just gonna live in this garage now. That's so much money. Like, this has to be like either we're like chop shopping cars, we are running guns. What does the Yakuza do? Like, they're a crime syndicate for crime. What's their crime?
Drugs and there's no guns in Japan, so definitely guns, drugs for sure. They love amphetamines. But, like, I'm really thinking that I was going to go with, like, car parts or something like that. It felt like car parts because, like, that's, like, the whole, like, crux of it. And, like, why would Han be, like, getting into, like, drugs and guns at this, like, it just feels weird.
Well, so the thing to keep in mind is that if we are trying to reverse engineer this so that, like, this is after Fast and Furious 6, right? Yeah. We also see in F9, sort of spoilers for Cody, but like Mr. Nobody who's played by Kurt Russell, like rescues him from the car crash. Like he survives the car crash because this government agent pulls him out. So like he might be involved in drugs or doing whatever he's doing just because it's what the government wants him to do.
Oh, okay. So you're saying he's on an undercover mission, maybe.
I do think that like the whole Mr. Nobody thing is like the biggest, like the most flexible smokescreen in terms of like, it's just whatever. Like it's what the government wants, right?
Yeah.
There is a thing, though, when Han says, like, I got money, it's like, I need loyalty, right? I wonder how much, because could be a thing that we try to figure out every episode, basically, is how much the writers of these movies actually know the franchise, because it seems like they don't really seem to care to connect, like, they kind of do, but they don't really, and, like, I wonder if at all, Han saying, I got money, and then in between 3 and 4, when they're like, we're going to bring these back in time, because we want to bring Han back, whatever, if they were like, because there's also the rumor Fast 5 is actually the Italian job to the Brazilian job, so there might have been a screenplay, whatever. I wonder if there was ever a thought or a care to fill in that backstory. Like, one of the jobs we have to see Han do is a big score.
Get the money. Okay.
Probably not, but maybe.
Because he could have had money from this, and they weren't thinking ahead to do that, right? But you're saying they're thinking
but I'm saying, like,
to cover
if they're
it.
like, well, Han is alive now, and these are coming back in time, like, do we want to show why he's able to live this kind of carefree lifestyle? Probably not, but maybe.
Okay, so to answer your question, like, how much do the writers, like, think about this stuff? I would say the accuracy to the car world is like probably like 40%. So I would say like that's probably how much they care about, how continual like everything is, the continuity of the films. Like,
I think you're giving them some grace because
I think so too. I really think so too. Because honestly, like every movie just feels like it's coming out of left field. And I literally don't understand how they come up with these things, which totally means that there's no idea here. There's no like broad idea here, like a good TV show is written out, they're shooting from the hip every single second of every single script they write.
I think we've learned that that's true based on all the changes that Vin likes to make at the very last minute to these films and how he's the most influential storyteller.
I believe that.
There is another thing that I thought this time where years ago when Fate was coming out, I think it was when Fate of the Furious was coming out, someone who we have now become friends with over at Bloomberg, Kim Basine and his Bloomberg associates, did this thing called the Stats of the Furious. They went through and they counted like number of hugs, number of shirtless scenes, like all like whatever.
Coronas, yeah.
And one of the things they covered was number of times the word family is said.
Beautiful.
And I really think, and I don't know this for sure, but this is the first Justin Lin movie. This is the pivot into the Justin Lin arc of the franchise 3, 4, 5, 6, and he comes back for 9. I think the line at the end of this movie said he knew Han, said Han was family, is the pivot point.
I have that written down.
I think that's the inflection. I think you're right, brother.
I looked at the Stats of the Furious. So the word family is said twice in the first movie, so not really. 0 times in the second. 2 in this, 2 in 4, and then 5, 10, and 9. So it's not immediate, but I do think like family is this thing that's going to mean something. Han is family. He's not just a friend, but he's like in here.
Yeah. Yep.
And then bringing Vin back in, bringing Dom back in, I think intentionally or not, like that's the point where it's just like now family means a certain thing.
Yes, I think that's like the like gang name is a family kind of thing. That's you're a part of this or you're not. Like DK, not family. Han, definitely. And I actually have in my notes written down Han was family in quotes. And next to it I have, is this too self-aware or is this not self-aware enough? Like are we talking like, do we understand when we're placing this term family into these parts where like, you know, hey, I got somebody that wants to race you, man. He said Han was family. And you think to yourself, like, are they using family because they want us to literally like meme the shit out of that and like understand that that's literally the gang name, like you're a part of the family?
No, I think they're just like they're just using it as in the sense of like this is a friend of ours, like the made man kind of guy.
Yeah.
That I think that they're using it just to like denote
like he's a wise guy.
That he's like he's one of us. Like this isn't just like some random dude that knew Han. He was Han's brother. So like
But also is he saying that Han is a part of, you know, the Toretto gang and Twink knows this?
No, I don't think Twinkie knows the severity of it here. I don't think he does till later.
He says a few things.
See it.
Yeah.
I think on a broader scale, though, the like, are they self-aware or not just to this point, but like on a franchise-wide thing is an interesting thing to track because it's like, I think as they go on, they become less self-aware and more overly serious and they kind of lose the heart, but also
Agreed.
Elements of it become more self-aware to the point where they're having conversations in 9 about like, are we immortal? Like, think about all the things we've done. And so there's this like trajectory where it's like, these are serious things. We have to save the world, but also realizing at the same time, we are comic book characters that go to outer space in a Fiero.
Yes.
And so I think somehow it's both of those, which doesn't make any sense.
That's a good answer. I'll take that.
I don't know.
I'm with that, yeah.
Is this a Christmas movie? We talked about this before. There's the Christmas trees lit up on the streets of Tokyo. Are they always there? Is this a Christmas movie?
This is a Christmas movie.
I didn't even notice that.
When Sean arrives, when he's like got that guitar on his back that he loses to the cab driver, there are Christmas trees there. And then when they're driving, when they're drifting through at the an hour into the movie when Han dies, they're also on the street there too. But like it's nothing else is Christmas. It's just like there's trees on the street lit up for.
They've decorated it for the season. Yeah. That's not like constant Tokyo garb.
No, absolutely. And I guess if you think about it, like as they're drifting through the streets, and actually a lot of it, Neela's wearing like winter coats. Everybody, like pedestrians, are kind of dressed for winter too. Just
time of the year they were shooting, but yes, that does make it a Christmas movie.
Yes,
but I mean they were shooting at Christmas or whatever, right? So yeah. Cody, what else? Is there stuff about this movie that you don't like? Like, what keeps this from being your favorite? Is it just that you love 2 more? Or are there things about this that kind of hold it back for you?
It's really, really cheesy. There's just so much about this movie that like as somebody from the car world but also the movie world, like I was hoping for so much more out of this movie that I just didn't get. They just cut it so short where like there's so much they could have led into but then they didn't. There's so much that they could have touched on that they didn't. I think keeping it fairly simple was probably a smart play because of how different it is, but really like I have a ton of quotes written down from this movie that just like absolutely blew this movie for me. Like when he says my ride,
all the accent shit. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Phenomenal. The Twinkie quote of when he hands him the tissue box and says for when you blow your wad, like things like that. Like, bro, no, like cut that kind of stuff out, and I think that this movie would be a lot better.
Do you think so? Because I don't know if we would love it as much. I feel like that's the charm of it is how corny it is. And I think that it's part of the reason why it like resonates and why it like sticks with us and like why we have such nostalgia for it. Like if this became like a very serious movie, would we still be like fondly talking about it?
See, and that's the question I guess I have in my head is, like you said, if it took itself more seriously, I feel as if this movie is taking itself seriously. And
Okay.
this is literally what they're trying to portray. I never saw this movie as being like self-aware enough that it's essentially making fun of itself or being kind of like jokey with it. The only other movie that I can think of off the top of my head is like the Halloween remake.
Mm-hmm.
Not the Rob Zombie one, but like
the David Gordon Green one.
Yes, where like there's a lot of jokiness in that movie because like Danny McBride was a part of it that just like it really turned me away from that movie because like I feel like it just didn't embody that first movie feel.
Right.
Where like I feel like that first Fast and the Furious really tried to take itself very seriously, and I think every movie past that tried to do the same thing. I think that they put it out into the world and everybody was like, this is a great caricature of the car world, and they were like, yeah, that's exactly what we intended.
When we were talking about the rankings, you being the 5th for Too Fast, like people don't typically like Too Fast very much. This is one that people like average sort of casual fans either love or hate. Like there's a real dichotomy here, and it might be what we're talking. It might just be that kind of goofy, corny thing.
Yeah.
Also, people don't necessarily particularly take to Lucas Black in the lead here. Going from Paul Walker to Lucas Black is a little bit of a choice there. But yeah, yes. But I do wonder because like Too Fast is much closer to the first movie than
I agree
this is to either of them.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I also kind of wonder like I have like a big love for cars and like being that and the car scene and being that that's what I'm looking for out of these movies and that I'm really relating to and tying to in these films. Maybe and like that's again probably why I haven't seen some of the later ones because they get so far away from how cool the cars are.
They're just action movies.
Yeah, literally, they're just action movies. So I think maybe that's a big part of it. That's
fair because there is like 4 kind of pivots, and then if you are a car guy, 5 is like maybe kind of car but not really, and then past that it's very little. Like they don't even seem to care about the cars
exactly right
at all.
Yeah.
That being said, I feel like, Joe, we've watched several movies. I think it's a big trope in the 80s movies of like training montages. And I feel like I never noticed how they do it in this movie. But I feel like intercutting him driving with other stuff where he's like becoming a part of the community is a really kind of cool way of like cutting back and forth as opposed to just like, oh, this guy's like trying and failing and trying and failing. It's like, he's trying and failing, but getting better, but also at school, like getting along with friends or whatever. And like,
making new friends and helping Twinkie sell his gear and like all this. I think that you're right. It's nicer than just seeing like, punching a punching bag or something like that, right? Because you're now more invested in Lucas Black's character overall.
The duality of him, I think, that he's more than just that surface level character, that not only is he struggling in school to, connect with people, but he's also now learning a totally new culture with people, but also cars too.
Unrelated to this, but my friend just sent me a picture. Michael Caine reflects on friendship with Vin Diesel, quote, "This is my son." Sure. I think they were both in.
Get Michael Caine back in. Get Michael Caine in.
Yeah, Cody, is there people from this movie, like obviously we all want Suki to come back, and we talked about, Jesse not able to come back because he dies in the first movie, but are there people from this movie, because like, vague spoilers for 9, but Twinkie and Earl and Sean do come back for like a couple scenes. But are there people from this movie that you think that, like, as, again, having not seen the movies, like, I don't want to keep that as, like, a limiting factor, but, like, people from this that you, like, that didn't come back, you're like, I really wish this character, this group, or whatever returned, again, Joe was saying, like, the sort of the, what'd you say, like, the end game version where, like, everybody comes back. Like, are there people from this movie that you would like to see return, in, like, a all-hands-on-deck kind of situation?
Oh, this is an easy answer. Ludacris. Ludacris in that tan jumpsuit and that truck. with the Louis Vuitton.
You want him to come back in the Too Fast setup.
Oh yeah, only. That's like the only way he could, you know?
This is how we always we were just talking recently, and we were like, I really want to see Vin actually just fight a version of Vin
from another movie.
Yeah, from another. Like, I want like the last witch hunter to like show up in Fast and the Furious, and that be like the bad guy, and have him play both characters as the different characters, but fight himself.
Like a Shadow Dom?
This is exactly what I described it as, a Shadow Link. Exactly what I described. Yes.
Yep. Yeah, Shadow Dom would be so, like, it's like him battling his inner demons, but it's actually battling himself. Like, yeah.
But I want to see them both on screen. They need to, like, have it so that they're both there.
One's, like, kind of holographic, but one's not, and they, like...
That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh,
I like the hologram.
Yeah, but the shine off the crosses is, like, identical. Like, that's... Yeah.
I do wonder, because, like, you know how, like, whenever they have, like, two characters, like, clones or whatever fighting themselves, like, one, like, takes off their shirt so, like, audiences can figure out who,
yes.
Like... Oh, yeah.
I do wonder, like, what the distinguishing factor would be. Like, would it be muscle shirt versus not, or would it be cross versus not? Like, there's got to be something that's, like, definitive to Dom, the character of Dom.
You'd have... So, Shadow Dom would be the black beater, and then the real Dom would be the white beater.
You're right. That's very, very clear. Good and evil.
Yep,
very distinct.
Yep, exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Binary choice. Easy.
But the beater has to be there, you know?
Yeah, they both have.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Dom, I have my other note from this movie that I took this time was at the end when Dom says, "I won this car off Han." We still have not seen that race. I wonder if we will ever see Dom race Han to win the car that he, you know, the American muscle car that he drifts with and wins, because in 7 he comes back and, like, Sean's like, wow, I never saw somebody drift like that in America. Like, it's just like, okay, so Dom wins that race. But, like, I do wonder if we will ever see, because Dom and Han don't race each other,
ever.
So I'm like, I want to see that.
I kind of assumed that, like, that would happen in number 7, because that's when Han comes back, right? Or is that when Sean comes back?
Sean comes back in 7.
Sean comes back in 7. I saw the poster lineup, and I thought I saw his face in the poster. Okay, so then I figured that would be it, because, like, you're right. Where, so, like,
mini spoilers, all we get is the end of this race.
Oh,
and then being, you know what I mean? Like, we get like
that's where we jump in. Okay,
that's where we jump in. Yes,
got you. Okay, so yeah, that I would want to see that race, because honestly, I would want to see that Roadrunner drift, because that's an American car that's, like, not set up for anything like that. So, like, and they're big, and you're in a car park, like
tiny parking lot.
Yeah, and it's set up for drifting these tiny little toy cars.
Do you think a car like that could drift?
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh, definitely. I mean,
you can make anything drift, but, like,
literally that. Yeah. I've seen some pretty crazy things drift, like G-body Monte Carlos and stuff. Even, like, the generation in between Sean's Monte Carlo and a G-body Monte Carlo, like that late 70s. I've seen a few of those built. Huge. Yeah, they're massive, and they're so heavy. But that's a big problem for them, is that they're tanks of cars.
What do you actually like? Again, this is me asking a question that almost all of our listeners probably already know. But, like, what do you literally change about a car to make it drift? Is it just the tires? Is it, like, the suspension? Like, what are you changing in a car? Or can you just drift in, like, in a stock car no matter what?
So you could, like, quote unquote drift in a stock car, but that's more like power sliding, where you just kind of, like, throw the car into a turn. But, like, in actual controlled drift, you'd want, like, a limited slip differential in your rear end, or you would want, like, a welded differential, which is going to keep the wheels spinning together. Most cars today, they would have, like, an open differential that's going to keep the wheels, so, like, when you turn, your wheels turn at different speeds. So when you drift, you want that power straight back, and you want them spinning at the same time. So you weld that diff up, you get those wheels spinning at the same time. You can throw that power back to those wheels a lot easier. A lot of those older muscle cars, if they have, like, a limited slip differential, you could absolutely get them drifting pretty well. But an open differential would have what they call, like, a one-wheeler peeler, where, like, one wheel spins, but then the other one doesn't.
This is my
cousin Vinny.
This is my cousin Vinny
Every
for
time
you, bud.
when
This
you
is
keep
exactly
sending
what
limited
this
slip
is.
differential,
Yep.
I'm just thinking about Mona Lisa Vito
That's
on
what I
the
was.
stand,
That's what I was bringing you to, bud.
stuck in mud in Alabama. So like a Buick Skylark could drift.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And
Okay.
you get a redneck with a TIG welder, you throw a block of metal in that differential, and that baby, oh yeah, she'll drift.
But everything we do to build cars now is you don't want the back of the car to slide out from under you.
Right,
So
exactly that. We don't
that's
want
very
that.
dangerous to somebody that doesn't know what they're doing.
Exactly that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're trying to counter this from happening.
Yeah. And actually, that's a good point. The Evo 9 that Sean's driving in this movie is from factory an all-wheel drive car, but he's drifting it. That car shouldn't be drifting like that. That actually had to be converted to rear-wheel drive only, so that way it could drift for him in those scenes, which actually I have written down. Why would they do that other than maybe a nod to Brian's green Evo 9?
They actually this was one of the cars that I think that they said that they got like one of the first Evo 9s like for the Fast and the Furious. Like the one that I think it's the one that they have in Tokyo Drift. It's like they got like one of the newest models like off the line. Like they were like one of the first people to get it for the movie.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's really
I think that's
cool.
what Chris Lieberman said. It was one of the Evos though.
Craig Lieberman?
Yeah.
Craig
Lieberman. Yep. Yeah, the owner of like a lot of those original cars. Yeah. Follow him on Instagram. He is awesome to follow on Instagram.
His YouTube videos are cool too. He does he did a whole bunch of YouTube videos about the cars and stuff.
Yeah,
it's really
definitely.
He for like a couple years was positioning himself as like the car expert for Fast and Furious. Like, he was doing a lot of videos, as I'm sure you saw. Like, here's what happened when I would join Fast 1 or Fast or whatever, right? So, other notes, other thoughts, other things to say about either Tokyo Drift or any of the movies in particular? Is there stuff about like, because obviously the timing for Too Fast didn't work, but what do you love about Too Fast? If you don't have any more notes about this, like whatever you want to say.
Too Fast, I think, is just aesthetically, stylistically perfect for the time and era.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically am I allowed to curse on this?
Mm-hmm.
It was a big fuck you to domestic guys. And I think that was like what was so fucking cool back then was like I was growing up as a teenager where I was like in my little pocket rocket, Honda speeding around town, and everybody I knew, my grandfather, they were like in their Ford trucks and their Chevys, I'm in the suburbs of Philadelphia, just before you hit farmland. So like you start to get that redneck stuff bleeding in where lifted trucks, diesels and stuff, and not little, pocket rocket JDM cars or anything like that. I got into Volkswagens because of that, because like there wasn't a lot of Japanese cars in my area, but there were a ton of Volkswagens because we have a local port, and Westmoreland, Pennsylvania is where they used to build Volkswagens. So we just have a big population of Volkswagens here. I think at the time they played their cards right with Too Fast, Too Furious, playing to the right audience, where it was a bunch of kids who were really into these really cool new Japanese cars, because drifting just started to take off. Like you're talking 2001, and Too Fast, Too Furious was 04? If I'm
3, I think, or 04?
03?
It might be 04.
Yeah. And like, so drifting is just starting to take off. All of these really cool Japanese cars are like really starting to take off in America.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them we couldn't even import or anything like that. So we were trying to make them out of the cars that we had, where like you see Rome in Eclipse, with a body kit and it's convertible. That's like not really a cool car in the JDM world, but in America we kind of made it a cool car. It's a front wheel drive car. It's like not that cool.
Yeah.
It spoke to the right audience, a bunch of kids that were in the car scene trying to find their voice in a world of hot rods and domestics and boomer mobiles, that they just weren't having it. And now you have like, this stuff's actually really cool. We can have JDM cars and have a shop and, have a community of it.
That's very cool.
That's why it's my favorite. And like I think like Ludacris at the time was just the perfect music artist to bring in for that. Suki was perfect.
Miami as a setting is gorgeous.
Perfect perfect for '04, and car scenes alone, you know.
I will say one thing I also noticed about this movie, because thinking about Ludacris and like Ludacris having songs in the movie while he is also acting in the movie, but they're not songs by Tej, they're songs by Ludacris and whatever. When the Teriyaki Boys Tokyo Drift song plays in the beginning of this movie, I never really like paid attention to, but they just remove the words Fast and Furious. But at the end, I think they put them back in. But like they just do the lyric leading up to Fast and Furious, cut that, and then they just go after. So it's like a very like jarring, weird thing. But because I guess
never noticed that either.
You don't want to be reminded that you're watching a Fast and Furious, I guess, while watching a Fast and Furious. But also, like, who cares? Like, just do whatever.
Yeah. No, that's so funny. I never even caught that. But the soundtracks are always killer.
This one's top tier.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I was like, this is the only Fast and the Furious that has a song that's attached to it, where like people identify like the movie by just hearing the ding, 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 ding. Like it's the only one. And it's so funny that like even when like I play GTA with my boys and like I'll mod out a cool car and stuff and I'll bring it out, and then my boys will just like play that over the headset, and I'm just like, all right, you want to make fun of me because I over mod a car when we're just trying to do a heist? I get it, like, you know. So I think that there's a lot to be said there. And then I even had a note of like one of the songs was playing, and I was like, this song is just so perfect for the time.
It is a time capsule. The whole soundtrack in general, though, is just like this era, this time for sure.
Yeah, and I think that like the nostalgic factor of that going back to it is just, you know, something that they did absolutely right.
Joe, do you have other notes, other thoughts about Tokyo Drift?
Only that when we were watching it this time, and we're now into the minutes, Cody, we also covered like the movies minute by minute, then break them down to like everything that's in them, all of it.
That's gotta be exhausting.
All I was looking at is just places to be terrified in the minutes, and we just got out of the Shangri-La scene, which was like fucking 6 minutes long of them just driving, and I was just like, this mountain race is gonna be so miserable for us. Like just in the background, there's like nothing. It's just dark. There's nothing happening. Nobody's talking.
All of my notes go like up to that scene, and then they just like stop. Because it's like so long and like pretty uneventful. I was like, the car's underbody sparking, like, and it's not even touching, and like you can see that, and I'm like, why am I even talking about this at this point? Like
those were my final thoughts is just notes about me just being like, oh god, this part's gonna be hard to do. But
yeah, seriously.
Cody, are you ready to find out which Fast and Furious character you are?
Yes, I'm so ready.
So we had found, when we started the podcast, a quiz that was like a BuzzFeed style, J14 style quiz. And we're like, we can do a better one. So we made our own quiz. There are 7 questions, 6 answers per question. Again, no wrong answers. You can explain your answer or not. You can live in mystery.
Beautiful.
But I'm going to read the question, read the answers. You can pick who you are. And then at the end of the 7 questions, we'll find out who you are. Are you ready to begin?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Question number 1, how fast are you? NASCAR, roller coaster, Lamborghini Murcielago, Toyota Prius, Vespa, or Razor scooter?
Well, I have ADHD, so I'm going Lamborghini Mercy.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yep.
Question number 2, you know it's coming. How furious are you? The Hulk, Kylo Ren, Christian Bale on that one movie set that one time, Mel Gibson, Charlie Brown, or Jack McBrayer?
I'm pretty mellow as a person. I smoke a lot of weed. So what was that bottom option?
Jack McBrayer, Kenneth the Page from 30 Rock.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What's cocaine like?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm with it.
Question number 3, we're having a barbecue. How are you helping? Are you on the grill? Are you saying grace? Are you kicking back with a beer? Are you babysitting? Are you being the entertainment? Or are you sneaking a snack?
If I can't be, if I'm not bringing the Coronas, I'm absolutely being the entertainment.
Okay.
Yep. We're talking, we're hanging out. I'm showing off my car in the garage.
Cool.
You know.
You've got time to kill. What are you doing? Are you grabbing a bite? Working in your car, which you might be based on what you just said, hanging with friends, drinking a beer, working out, or doing some work on your computer?
Oh, this is a really good one. Can I combine 2 answers?
Got to pick one. We don't have
the technology.
Oh man, that hasn't been invented yet. All right, so I'm gonna go with working on my car. I'm out there. I'm wrenching because I got Right now I have a Mark III Jetta, but that's getting sold, so I'm currently returning it to stock for the new owner. I have a 91 Chevy van that is
Fun.
being LS swapped, so I'm pulling the original.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm pulling the 350 out, and then I'm putting an LQ4 6-liter in. And then I also have two little scooters. I have a little Honda Aero 50, or it's a Super Tact that's actually imported from Japan, and I have
cool.
a Yamaha Raz that I have built
Super cool.
in Kaiju Suki style.
What was the other answer? If we did have morphing technology, what would be the other answer that you would do with working on your car?
Oh, it would be working on my car with my friends. I have an awesome group of friends. Shout out On My Own Boys. Shout out Murda. Shout out Annoying Team. Shout out Street Team Dash. Shout out Lust Baltimore Street Style. Those are all my homies that I hang out with like daily. We have like car group chats and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
The car community is literally a community of a bunch of people, and like I think that Fast and the Furious really exemplifies that. It's a bunch of people playing with cars, and like you're working on cars, you're hanging with friends, it's family, baby.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that is something that's interesting about this franchise in particular is that like there are really like most of the people we have on the show as guests who are just sort of the terminally online or just like kind of pop culture junkies who love movies. But there's like a whole other audience of people who like I don't typically have access to because I don't know cars, but like people who love these movies for a totally different reason, but they can both like the same movies.
And also then
reasons.
coalesce, you know what I mean? Which is really cool.
You know what? And actually, I have a ton of notes about this movie, about like technical things that I just thought were super, super cool. If you care to like learn them.
Tell me.
Okay.
Sure.
So the first race, the Kid Rock race I have written. Yeah. So Sean's his 71 Monte Carlo, that is said to have an engine swapped 632 cubic inch, 10.3 liter big block engine, which standard that would probably come with at biggest a 454, which is like 7 liters. So like his engine swap is that car is insane. The way that he has that built, and he's like 17 years old, and he has like right now that is like you're talking a crate engine. That's probably $12,000. This is a 17-year-old kid. Let's adjust for inflation. So you know, like maybe an 8 to 10,000. Maybe you pull it out of a junkyard. $4,000 engine. This kid's in high school putting a $4,000 big block engine into a Monte Carlo. That kid's badass, all right? And then he puts it up against Clay's Viper, which is an SRT 10. It's a V10, so that means it's 2 more cylinders, but it's an 8 liter. It's twin turbo. It is 500 horsepower versus Sean's 800 horsepower engine. So right off the rip, that's such an unmatched race. Sean has such a huge upper hand. And you know what? Fuck Zachary Ty Bryan's character, Clay. Fuck him. He's so cocky.
And him as an actor, too.
Yo,
and
honestly,
him as an actor as well.
Yeah.
As a person.
Yeah. But like, right there, the cockiness, that dude's car is so underpowered for this race that I just like when I see that and I'm just like, you know what? Go Sean, you know, rip that.
Well, it's the same thing for the first
man.
movie, right? It's just like, you know, more than you can afford, pal. Ferrari. It's just like, well, you bought
Literally.
a Ferrari and you're driving it here to show off your girlfriend, whatever. But it's like, well, these guys actually put the engine time, they put the garage time into like.
Built
This is what your guys' dream are. You want somebody to show up in a Viper and try to race you. You're like, yeah, you don't fucking know what you're doing.
It does the job.
Built, not bought, all day, baby. Yep, and that's exactly how I feel too. Something else that I wrote down was the amount of really awesome cameos that are in this movie.
Oh, like the drift driver, like the drift expert
so like,
as the fisherman.
Yeah, so like we have, well, in the plane, as we're zooming out, we have Rhys Millen, who's like an early drifter, and like
okay, we didn't know that one. I don't know that one.
Yeah, so he's when they zoom out, he's the bottom left-hand corner. But so he's like an early drifter. He was like one of the early D1 drifter guys that kind of helped popularize drifting within even just the US. Yeah, the like you said, the fisherman on the dock, that's Keiichi. he is essentially the real DK. He is the dude who DK is supposed to be, except he's like an actual DK, and he's not like cocky about it or an asshole about it. Like, he actually has the skills to back it up. And what's really cool is Keiichi's Panda Trueno 86 is in the car park scenes when they're doing that initial drift, DK versus Sean.
Okay.
I thought that was really cool, because that's
very cool.
That's a historic car for drifting. And then the other person that's next to Keiichi on the dock is Kazutoshi Wadakura, who he's a film producer in Japan. He's very famous film producer. He's done a bunch of stuff that's a little bit like more mainstream in Japan.
Very cool.
And the translation, when he says, I can't remember what Keiichi says now, but he says something about, he's like, is that how you drift? That's not how you drift, or something. But the translation, what he actually says in Japanese is, you're counter steering too late, which is like,
okay.
which is pretty crazy that they like subtitled it incorrectly.
That's actually, so like in the off episodes, we do the goofs. We're doing the goofs on IMDb, and that was one that I had here that says, during Sean's first practice run in the Evo 9, a fisherman makes a snide remark in Japanese, translated as "You call that drifting?" The correct translation is, "Counter steering is late, huh?" So
yes,
yeah.
Exactly that. Yeah, which is really cool. And
that's a much cooler line.
Yeah, right.
That he knows what he's doing.
That like
wrong.
This random
that's
fisherman,
cool.
And that again is such initial D vibes. That like some random fisherman is just like, because like you got to think like, the tofu driver is the drift king.
Yep.
in initial D, so it would kind of like fit that vibe very much. I still just can't get over that that's Keiichi, and like his role within the drift world from the 80s. Like, he started creating VHS tapes teaching people how to drift in the like late 80s, and then in the early 2000s he was the reason that drift even started as a competition, and we have like Formula Drift.
Well, now the question I have for you, knowing who you are and what you do, and also what you're sitting in front of, do you have any of those VHS tapes of him teaching people how to drift?
I have so many option tapes. Those tapes are very rare and very hard to get. But option tapes, which is cool, I have written in here that when they go into the one scene that Han is hanging out with all of the beautiful women.
Yep.
There's on the TV, they're watching an option drift DVD or tape. So like, that's such a cool little like detail that they threw in, that I was like, only like a real car guy would see that and be like, that I know exactly what that is.
That's super cool. And
then I have his username, Bama Boy.
Mm-hmm.
Which is so funny, and then her thing is Drift Girl when they're like IMing back and forth. So, and then one thing that I thought was really, really cool that I wanted to touch on too was at the end where they reveal that the Mona Lisa is destroyed, and they're gonna pull the engine out of it, and they're gonna put that engine into Sean's dad's Mustang, and they're gonna build this like Franken car hybrid American car with a JDM engine in it. Something that's really cool about that is that in the Mona Lisa is an S15 that would standard come with an SR20 DET engine, and it doesn't have that in it. When they pop that hood, that's an RB20 out of a Nissan Skyline. So you're talking, the SR20 is a 4-cylinder, but the RB20 is a 6-cylinder. So like that's like unwrapping a gift right there. Yeah. And putting that into that American chassis, which is like super lightweight. That's a recipe for success right there. I thought that was a really cool like element that even if you're a car guy, you see that and you're like, whoa, that's an even bigger engine than what it should be. But as a non-car guy, you're just like, that's a Japanese engine going into an American car. It still translates.
These are cool little tidbits hearing it come from you, like in like the deep car guys, that like you would appreciate these nods, right? Like this is just like a cool thing that they did. They're just like little Easter eggs for you, right?
Exactly that. And like I think that's if if there was a little bit more of that, I think that would absolutely bump this movie up to my number one spot. But I think that there's not a lot of that because, to be honest, there's a lot of that kind of information out there. And like, it would just be so much. It would just be, pounding your viewer with information that they need to learn that like, you can't do that. Something else I have written down is no ketchup equals no gaijin, which is like one of my favorites, like cringe scenes. Is like when he's like, look, I'm not even eating it with ketchup. I'm not a gaijin. And then she's like, I hate that word. And it like gets real serious real quick.
Yeah.
Something that I really wanted to get into that makes this movie so powerful and so cool is the idea of conformity versus non-conformity. I don't know if you guys have ever like touched on that.
Like in general, Japan is just a very conformist place and country. So
yeah, and I very much so. And I think that a lot of movies that we see coming out of Japanese are movies that question conformity. And like, are we all doing the right thing as a society, being that outsider? And I think that this movie has so much of that, like that duality sense where like I have written down like the stance and drift world versus like the domestic or speed guys, where like Japanese cars are built totally different than the way Americans build cars. So like an American built domestic car, like a hot rod or something like that, would be built totally different than a Japanese car. Sean coming into this world where he's like, okay, like, do I conform to this stuff? Do I not conform to this stuff? His father is saying like, hey, you need to conform. You need to be a military son just like me. And then at the end, he's like, well, at least you're not making the mistakes I'm making. And he's accepting that his son is very different and he's not conforming to what he wants. There's so much. There's, within the car world, I think that is just a big concept, is this conformity versus non-conformity, where there's a lot of people telling you how to build your cars. Don't lower your car that far. Don't add that much camber to your wheels. They all want to build your car for you, but don't want to give you the money for it. Where like hot rod guys don't like the low riders and low rider guys don't like hot rods. But it's very like when it boils down, it's very much like an art versus technical thing where it's like, can you build an engine or could you style a car?
Fair.
And
yes.
like even with drifting is a style based competition where like racing is a speed based. At the end, like when they race, but they have like it's drifting, but it's a race. That's so weird because like Formula Drift and stuff is really based off of style and hitting boxes, and it's not based on who can get through the finish line the fastest. But domestic guys, like that's how they are. So there's a lot of things like that where like you can see a lot of this conflict, but that's like you said, in Japan there's a lot of conformity. So that I think that's again a very like initial D theme, is this idea of like conformity versus non-conformity. You look at Twinkie's car, the VW Touareg, the Hulkmobile, man, versus all of these drift cars. But he's cool with that. That car's not a drift car, but he's totally.
It also shows, like, doesn't Sean say, like, I hope there's normal cars in Japan? Like, he said something, like, really condescending. Just like, I hope there's normal cars here, too. Like, I hope they're not all like this.
Absolutely that. But then over the course of time, he's forced into, learning these things. And, we find him eventually liking them and being good at them.
I think there's also something that you were saying about, like, American people. Like, I think the gist of what I heard was that, like, Americans want to just, like, cross the finish line first, but, like, there's more to it. And, like, in that race where, like, DK knows he's going to destroy this kid who's, like, never drifted before, like, he just, like, waits for him. He's just like, come on. Like, he does, like, the whole, like, he's like, no, I'm going to win. Like, I can even let you
style.
Go. Yeah, exactly. Just, like, no, I'm just going to hang here, like, look cool and, whatever. But, yeah.
Yeah, so you can see it throughout the movie in a lot of different areas.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great place to pick for this, knowing that we're getting a fish out of water story and watching the whole, like, this is a really good thought. The conformity of it and watching him have to conform to Japanese society, which is non-conform. Like, it is a very fun play. That was an excellent thought. Thank you for sharing.
And then on top of that, you even want to talk about Fish Out of Water for that movie in the franchise.
Yeah.
You know? That's our Halloween 3.
It absolutely is.
The best one. Okay.
Yeah, exactly right.
So we have 4, because I was wondering, going back to the quiz, when you said working in your car versus hanging with friends.
Yeah.
There's a character who was in the lead, and then when you did working on your car, this character's point, because there's like a points tally or whatever, did not move. So there's someone who, like, you were, but that answer skewed you from it. So we'll see. There's 3 more questions. You could be anybody here.
Okay, let's finish this up.
Describe your wedding. I'm never getting married. It's just me and my partner. It's us and our families. It's a backyard country affair. Everyone I know is there. I don't remember.
Oh, it's us and our families.
Okay.
Absolutely. And it's funny that you mentioned that because I'm literally planning my wedding right now.
So am I.
Good luck. Congratulations,
congratulations
both of you.
to you. Yeah. When's yours?
October 11th.
Wow. Ours is October 26th.
Ooh.
You're like a week apart. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, when you're in the spooky movies, you know.
Yeah, true.
Yep.
Yes, we're going to have some spooky movie stuff. I'm sure not to the extent that you will, but also there's going to be some spooky movie stuff at ours for sure.
So we're actually trying to dial it back. We're trying to not have that. It's already our lives, you know?
Yes. Yeah, there's I don't want to, like, because I want it to be like a surprise, and also like we're still actively planning, because like Joe, but yes, there will be elements of things, but
fun.
Okay. You just won the lottery. What are you buying? Your own garage, a private plane. I'm gambling it all away. My child at home, a fleet of cars, or a new life.
Ooh, a fleet of cars, easily.
Nice.
It's so funny because the only reason I don't have a fleet of cars right now is because I don't have any place to keep them. Garages and driveways fill up very quickly with cars because cars are big, and I'm currently limited to 3 I'm allowed to have.
3's pretty good though.
3's a good number because you get your daily, you get your project, and then you get your other project. It's great.
And then the final question, what is your drink of choice? Belgian ale, Corona, something fruity, water, whatever's cheapest, or just, Joe's going to the bar. Just give me one of whatever you're having.
Oh, it's got to be a Corona.
Okay.
It's got to be a Corona. To be truthful, my beer of choice is Modelo. So
close, very close.
So honestly, it's pretty close, yeah.
I will say, I think you're going to be happy with this. The runner-up by 1 point was Jesse from the first movie. You're not him, but you were very close. You are, instead, Tej, as portrayed by Chris Ludacris Bridges.
Beautiful.
You've got the heart of the racer, the mind of a hacker, and are equally fascinated by the latest tech and how to improve on it as you are a classic engine. You don't shy away from the tough jobs, but you know you don't have anything to prove, so you're just as happy making sure your family has the things they need to accomplish their goals. Other people look at the big picture, but your strength is figuring out the details to make that big picture possible, and you drive like the wind blows.
Beautiful, boys. That is
sound
beautiful.
like you?
To be honest, that's my horoscope right there. That could just be my horoscope. That sounds like me to a T. Absolutely. That's phenomenal. And to be honest, it's very cool that I chose him earlier. Like, very, very cool to come back,
You are only our 3rd ever Tej and our 1st in years.
Beautiful.
That's like a fine line, knowing the scores, like to whittle down to. So you did excellent.
There are people still don't have. Tej is 3.63%. There are people that I don't know that we're ever going to, like, there's probably one machination where, like, you get to a certain thing. Like, there's 25, I think, possibilities. And we've probably had, let me actually get a quick here. Now that I have a number from before, like the playlist number, I'm curious now of, like, actually all the numbers, like the math of the Furious here.
Yeah, and you said how many characters?
There's like 25 characters.
Options that you can get from the quiz.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
we have done the quiz, not number of times, but like number of people. We've had 83 people take the quiz, I think.
Wow.
No, wait, we've had 71 take the quiz, 17 different answers. So there's still 8 characters we've never gotten.
Okay, there's 8 characters you've never gotten. So then who's number 1?
The most common, I think, like Dom
or Brian.
Because Dom...
Yeah.
We kind of weighted it to them anyways. So.
Okay.
14 people have gotten Dom. 9 have gotten Mr. Nobody, the Kurt Russell character.
Wow.
7 have gotten Ramsay, Natalie Emmanuel from like Game of Thrones. Because like a lot of people, again, we have in here are like podcast people who want to be on their computer. And so it's like, oh, you have your own podcast, you're on your own computer. Like you're a hacker, right? Like it's that kind of thing. But Dom is like... Because also it's the kind of thing where it's like, you take a personality quiz, like you want to be like a guy you don't know. You want to be like the hero. You want to be Dom, right? So like we waited to be Dom. Dom's the most common. But Tej, there are 3 Tejes, literally not in years. So congratulations, you are
I'm honored.
Tej.
I'm honored.
Rare air.
Beautiful,
sure.
beautiful. I hope there's a lot of clapping happening right now in the background. Please, just edit that in for me. Thanks.
Oh, I will definitely drop in some sound effects there. We could do BD Wappy Joe, but Cody's not on X anymore, so we could skip it or we could do it. I did because I also as we were doing this, I was looking for a tweet and I found a perfect tweet. This guy running through all of his favorite movies. He has a tweet about the scene that we're talking about, like the drifting scene, like counter steering is late.
Yep.
And then I go to his profile and the most recent tweet just says buy X on January 1st, and he's just gone. So I'm like, he's never gonna respond. So like I have the perfect tweet that's not gonna, you know what I mean? So like
Yep.
I think maybe we skip this, we come back next time, but
that's fine.
Man, I was just like, oh, this guy, like this is somebody who's gonna care.
This tweet fucks. And then you're like, he's gone.
There was another tweet that I found because I was just searching for you call that drifting, and somebody posted like me drifting in this van, and it's just him like doing like a little donut. And the first comment is, you call that drifting? And the first guy says, sorry, English is my first language. And then everyone like has the original guys back. They're like, you roast him, bro. Like that guy's a troll. Like just, I did not expect, because like this guy's like, oh, like talking shit. Like you call that drifting? People are like, fuck off, hater. Like this is a guy,
That's awesome.
Cool. So,
and it's very cool that it's a van drifting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love vans.
But it kind of is like what you were saying before. He just sort of like does a little half donut and then gets out of the car. So it's not really drifting, but like it's in the family.
You just like slam on the gas and just turn the wheel, and you're like, I drifted.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But Cody, thank you so much for joining us, for talking about the fast movies, for teaching me about cars. I will also say I've already forgotten 100% of what I've learned, because that's not something that sticks in my brain, so I'm sorry about that. But
I don't blame you.
We introduced you at the top, Studiohouse Designs. Please tell people what you do, where to find you, what you make, and anything you want to plug or promote.
Okay, so my name is Cody Brown. I am the co-owner of Studiohouse Designs. I make horror merchandise. I make cool accessories.
Absolutely do.
We are making licensed horror movie merchandise, but not just horror. We're starting to branch into other types of movies. We just touched on Fast and the Furious recently, and we're going to touch on it again. Yes.
I like that news.
Well, we absolutely need like more of these types of shirts with like a character shirt. I need like the Tej shirt now. You know what I mean?
We need all of them, and we will be buying all of the ones that you make, brother.
Of course, and I appreciate that. You can find us on Instagram at Studiohouse Designs. You can find us on TikTok at Studiohouse. I don't really use that much. You can find us on Facebook, and you can find us on our internet homepage, www.studiohousedesigns.com.
There were 2 things I want to say. Number one, we were talking about how with so many different, like I've spent so much money on horror shirts from you, from other men, like Graveyard Goods, Brucking, like all the people, like you find one that's all of a sudden, like they're all following other people. They're like resharing stuff. I'm like, oh my, I gotta cut back. I can't spend hundreds of dollars a week on horror stuff. But what is cool, what we were talking about, is the stuff like the Suki air freshener. It's like, I don't need another shirt, but like I need an air freshener. Or what I didn't buy because I restrained, but I thought your Severance, the Lumen keyboard pad was such a cool idea. Because I'm like, no, I've never seen any of these sites like sell something like that. I'm like, if I had a different desk setup, I would have bought that. But like, that's just such a cool idea.
Yeah, that's kind of like the stuff that we're like really trying to focus in on now. We're obviously like really trying to obtain licensing, and we're really hard trying to come up with like very creative accessories. We were in the process of obtaining Mulholland Drive because I really want to make like the street sign from Mulholland Drive.
Yes,
Oh.
but
I buy that.
I also want to make it stand off the wall rather than like having to be placed flat on a wall.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it can be
yeah.
like a little bit more dynamic. And like those are kinds of the things that I want to start pushing towards. Also, I want to start pushing out of just doing like clothing, but also doing like accessories, like obviously hats. We're doing those a lot more. We started doing like duffel bags. But I really want to get into crossbody bags. So we're starting to work through a line of crossbody bags. We're going to eventually get them licensed for, each individual movie and stuff. But yeah, so like the accessories are what's hot, I think, right now.
The other question I had for you, or I guess the one, because that wasn't the question, but a question I had for you, I don't think you have, or maybe it was before I started following you, but have you ever done It Follows?
I have not.
Because that's one of my favorite movies, and that's one that, no shade to other things, but like I feel like nobody has gotten right, and I feel it's hard because like there's not a creature. Like you put like JC put Freddy or whatever, and like people are like, I know what that is, but like It Follows is literally something you can't see, and I feel like there's something abstract, but like I'm still waiting for some horror designer or something, like just something which is like, that's the shirt. Because I have a couple that I'm like, I want to support the merchant, I want to support the movie or whatever, but like I've never had a design where I'm like, that's fucking cool, and like that's one. But I think it's hard. I don't have an idea. Like it's not like what, but that's one where I'm just like, I really want to see somebody nail that.
So that's definitely one that I would love to tackle. But you bring up something very valid, and that's something that a lot of people don't consider is like when there are movies that like the main entity like is a ghost or like is a concept. How do you display that on a t-shirt? It becomes very, very difficult to then translate the message of what the movie is without just like slapping a movie poster onto a t-shirt.
Or like I don't want like Micah Monroe like tied to a wheelchair in her bra looking scared. Like I don't want to, like, it's a cool image, but like I don't want to have that on a shirt like walking around like at the grocery store. You know what I mean? Like it's like you gotta
absolutely.
find the
Either way, we're huge fans, and you fucking kill it.
Yo, thank you.
I'm a big fan,
you.
and we will continue to support you for as long as you do this. I promise.
I just want to say thank you so much for supporting us, because it's literally me and my fiance Erin running this whole business, and like
That's awesome.
It's insane. I do a lot of the creative direction. I do a lot of the communication. I do a lot of the I do all of the social media stuff. My fiance, she does literally all of the shipping. If you bought a shirt, it's gone through her hands.
Love it.
When you guys buy from us, you're buying from two people and not a corporation, and I think
we
that's
love.
really, really fucking cool of you guys.
Of course.
Well, I hope we get you a lot more fans from listening to us today too. So.
And I hope I get you guys more fans too. You deserve it.
I hope I hope that the car friends that you have like don't listen to like half an episode, be like, so there's also a game that we play on here sometimes. It's like a car guessing game where like I describe cars. Like again, I know nothing about cars. He kind of knows about cars, and I try to describe cars. And the way that I described every car is like, well, it's a red. He's like, that doesn't help. I'm like, well, that's where I go first. It's not like, oh, well, like this has like a what, I can't even like pretend to know what I'm talking about. But like
2-door versus 4-door.
I'm picturing like your friends being like, oh, this fucking idiot. Like, look at this guy.
No. It's funny because like right before I hopped on here, I hit my group chat and I was like, yo guys, like I'm doing this podcast about Tokyo Drift today, and like I'm gonna shout you guys out because like y'all are my homies and stuff. And they were all like, dude, yeah, that's gonna be so cool, tell us where we can listen to it. And I'm like, it's gonna be about a movie and not about like the cars. So like I don't know how entertaining this is going to be for you guys, because it's not like, whoa, the bolt-on turbo and the intake, the manifold.
Just tell them to start like an hour in, and then they can hear your car talk.
There you go.
Like,
there you go. Yep. Yep. Exactly right.
Plus, also, if they're friends of yours, like they should support what you do, and it doesn't have to be just about cars. Like it's car adjacent. Like it's close enough. Yes.
Yeah, and they do. They do.
Well, shout out to all of them. Our next episode, Joe, is Tokyo Drift Minute 11, Another Life in the Fast Lane. Our next movie after that, though, in 2 weeks.
What?
the Paul Walker time travel movie Timeline.
I'd never heard of this, so
I've
I'm
never
excited
We talked
to
about it with
watch
Brian like 2 weeks ago. You have heard of it. It just like left your brain. But I don't know anything about it. I've never seen it. But
No, neither have I.
Timeline in 2 weeks. Between now and then, Life in the Fast Lane. I also do want to give a shout out to our patrons. If you've bought a shirt from, it does not gone through us, it's gone through. There's also stuff to talk about with the TeePublic store.
We have
Big
an
news
announcement.
next week. But shout out to
Yeah.
Nick Burris, Alex Ellen, and Justin Kleiman, Brian Rodriguez of Fatherhood,
Ooh.
Wes Hampton, Jerry Robinson, Dan the Duke, Hayden Renato DiDonato, Michael McGann, Lane Middleton, Lindsay Lewandowski, Nate Milton of the Kings of Sport, Jason Rainey, Tom Price, Mike Galler, Josh Buckley of Whole Lot of Wolves,
Yep.
Michael Moser, Christian Larson, Taryn Newman, Aaron Willows, Natalie Absolute, Randy Carter, Josh Gularm, Alex Walsh, Jack Haley, and Jessica Collins, a.k.a. Montez. Thank you all for supporting the $5 a month level or above. And for all things Too Fast, Too Forever, go to cageclub.me, facebook.com/TooFastTooForever, or at TooFastTooForever in most places. Email us, family@cageclub.me. We'll read it next week on the episode. Check out our Patreon page at TooFastTooForever.com and our store at cageclub.me/shop. And come back next week for Life in the Fast Lane. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe, too.
And that was Cody Brown of Studiohouse Designs, and we will tell you all about it
When we see you again.